So if you're watching this video, you probably know who I am. But if not, my name is Vincent Turner. I'm a singer-songwriter from the southeast of England. And you're about to learn a lot more about me as I'm doing a Q&A. These are questions that were given to me by my fans on Instagram. And starting off, we have best concert experience. And I think to kind of share with you the broad well that I'm drawing from, I've got two really good ones for you. I saw Black Sabbath at Download Festival in 2016. That was their final tour. It was mesmerising. Like, it feels oddly appropriate to say this with the band. It was like a religious experience. Excuse the blasphemy, but no, it was mesmerising. It was truly engrossing. I mean, like Tony Iommi, all he has to do is stand there and just play these insane riffs, and it is just like, and then obviously you've got Ozzy with his manic and insane stage presence. It was an incredible concert experience, even in all the rain and sludge of that weekend. And then complete opposite end of the spectrum, I saw Carly Rae Jepsen at the Brighton Dome. That was such a fun gig. And like I said, complete opposite end of the spectrum. So I went to that one on my own, and I ended up buddying up. Like, I ended up getting to know this guy that was there. We sort of buddied up for the concert. That was great. That obviously added a lot to the experience. The Carly Rae fans love her. Like, they love her. They were singing every song. The crowd really brought that gig to life. But then saying that, Carly herself is amazing. She was brilliant. Absolutely loved it. And to be fair, she has some pop bangers. Wonderful concert. So fun and energetic and just a good atmosphere. And so from that, we've now got a few people asked me about my favourite venues, especially in London, and where I would like to play. And, you know, the O2, Hyde Park, you know, but I guess from least realistic to most realistic, Hammersmith Apollo is a venue that I really like. Great venue, a lot of heritage. I've seen a few gigs at the London Palladium. Obviously, that's a theatre venue, but it's a beautiful venue. Always sounds amazing. Then I saw a gig at the Electric Ballroom. That was a venue that quite impressed me. And again, sticking with Camden, Dingwalls was like a proper, like, sweaty club. I've heard some stuff about Camden becoming gentrified, and I can kind of believe that, but I think there's still, like, pockets of alternative energy in there. A more realistic one for where I'm at, a band called The Harbours invited me to see them play in London, and they played this venue called the Water Rats. It's like, as you go in, you've got this pub, and then there's the doors, and you've got the actual venue at the back. And I remember walking in there thinking, yeah, I'd like to play this place. And then outside of London, this goes back into that dream territory, but I mentioned the Brighton Dome in relation to Carly Rae Jepsen. I love the Brighton Dome. It's easily my favourite venue. Like, it's honestly, that's the one venue where I have a real connection to it. Like, I love the Brighton Dome and I never want to see anything happen to it. I've seen a bunch of gigs at the Brighton Dome. It's always been a great experience. It's always sounded great. It's an independent venue. They don't rip you off with stupid booking fees and stuff like that. I have so much goodwill for the Brighton Dome, and if I was ever big enough, it would be a dream to play there. And then we've got Dream Artist to Support. And again, I'm just going to be unrealistic here. Just name, like, big bands that I like. And as I was thinking about answering this question, the band Nothing But Thieves popped in my head. Because the thing about Nothing But Thieves, I mean, A, they're amazing. Like, they're a really good band. But also, what I like about Nothing But Thieves is they're quite broad in what they do, right? So, like, you just take Moral Panic on its own. You've got songs like Impossible and Real Love Song that are these huge, like, arena rock anthems. You've got songs like Unperson and Can You Afford to Be an Individual, which are, like, heavy and proper, like, rock, and they're angsty and they're political. And then you've got other songs like Before We Drift Away, which is this kind of, like, alt-rock ballad. And I think, ultimately, I want to achieve a similar thing. I can look back, like today, for example, I can look back on the songs I've put out so far, and it does feel a bit of an eclectic mix. And I think the last maybe year or so, I've been really trying to funnel in and try and find my niche. especially in terms of social media and marketing and all that sort of stuff. Like, I think it helps if there's like the one thing that you do. But the truth is, artistically, I don't want to be that one-note artist. And I think also for the sake of the live set, like, you want the big sing-along anthems. Then you want everyone to rock out with that heavy number that has the riff. Then you want everyone, like, putting their phones in the phone lights in the air or pulling at their heartstrings with the emotional song. So yeah, you know, I'm thinking artists like that. And like I said, Nothing But Thieves kind of do it all. Snow Patrol is another one that popped in my head. Now, there's a little bit of bias here because I literally saw them last week. But I do draw quite a lot of influence from Snow Patrol. Yeah, now, one thing I will jump onto is I mentioned this band called The Harbours that invited me to their gig. If anyone can manifest me supporting them at their upcoming tour, for example, that would be amazing. But when it comes to the more indie side of things, what would probably... Okay, I guess I should clarify, like, this is picturing when I finally get a band together, which one day, okay, if I was supporting a proper indie band, so the Harbours are kind of going for that Two-Door Cinema Club kind of vibe, you probably wouldn't hear any big rock songs, or maybe there'd be like one. It would be more the indie and the sing-along stuff. And then, like, if I was to support, like, a proper rock band, like, I don't know, like a Royal Blood type sounding thing, I don't know, like, for argument's sake, there's this band from Hastings called Kid Kapichi that are doing really well. Like, if I was to support, like, a band like that, it would probably be more of the rock stuff, but then less of the, like, indie, alternative-y, or emotional stuff. You know, so like I said, those bands that have the big, broad ranges, anything with that would probably be more my ballpark. We have Desert Island Discs. So, this was the question of, like, if I was stuck on a desert island, and he said 4 albums, if I could bring 4 albums with me. I did think about this earlier, so I wouldn't just be sitting here like, ugh. Oh yeah, I already mentioned Nothing But Thieves. Their debut album is genuinely one of my all-time favourite albums. Like, that's coming with me. That's coming with me to the desert island. There's got to be a Beatles album. And I ultimately thought Rubber Soul is the one for me. It's that really nice, like, it's the first one where they really changed their sound and became, like, what they were in their later career. But you still got stuff like Drive My Car, which has the kind of called back to the earlier sound. Also, when I come to a later question, you'll probably see another reason why I pick Rubber Soul. But yeah, I really like Rubber Soul. Oh yes, there has to be an 80s, like, arena rock album. I was torn between the first Boston album or Escape by Journey, and ultimately I settled on Escape. The Boston album is also really good, and More Than a Feeling is one of my all-time favourite songs, but overall I think Journey just clinch it. You've got Don't Stop Believing, Who's Crying Now, Still They Ride has, like, one of the biggest choruses ever. It's insane. And then, like, there's some deep cuts on that album as well, like Keep On Running, and there's a song called Mother Father, which isn't my favourite Journey song, but the vocal performance is so impassioned. Like, yeah, Escape is a masterpiece in my opinion. And then, I don't want this to sound like a diversity pick or something, but I was thinking these are all, like, male bands, and I want to throw a woman in the mix. And immediately I thought, it's got to be Fallen by Evanescence. Again, that's one of my favourite albums. That scratches at the more heavy itch that I have, you know, the crunchy guitars and stuff like that. And it's just a bloody good album. I mean, you can't argue with the songs on that album. It's really good. Favourite Beatles song? So I touched on Rubber Soul earlier. Nowhere Man is one of my favourite Beatles songs. I have played it at gigs. It's also my mum's favourite Beatles song. Here's a fun story for you. Years ago, a friend of mine was basically introducing me to one of his mates. And to break the ice, it was like, oh, you both like the Beatles. What's your favourite Beatles song? And at the time, I said I saw her standing there, which, to be fair, is a bop. I really like that song. And it's just really entertaining hearing Paul McCartney sing, "She was just 17, you know what I mean." But no, as I've got older, I've developed more of a kind of connection with music. And please don't read too much into this. But Nowhere Man and Help are the two that really get me. And also, like, Help specifically, like, it's such a fun song to listen to, but it's also, like, so desperate. And I think also there's a kind of deeper thing here where it's like, you know, John Lennon is one of the greatest songwriters ever. Obviously, the Beatles were a massively successful band. And yet, he's still dealing with a lot of, like, the same feelings that, like, I go through, that I'm sure a lot of us, like, normies go through. And so there's something quite beautiful in that. And I guess it reminds you, like, obviously I'm trying to make music a thing and I'd love to become successful and all that sort of stuff, but it's not the be-all and end-all. And true success comes from having a happy life. So yeah, there's something quite beautiful in that. I did have someone ask me about my day job. I don't want to spend too much time on this, if I'm being honest. I've had a few, like, crappy retail jobs over the years. Now, I won't go into detail. In fact, the next... this is a shameless plug, but the next project deals with this period of time between losing a job. Well, it's just that aftermath, really. And it's... There's some lyrics in that album. I don't know, man. Like, I really like it. I think I'm at a point now where I've kind of taken this eclectic mix of everything I like and finally found a way to funnel it in a way that's really coherent. I think it's really... I'm so proud of these songs. But, sorry, back to the actual point. I now work at a holiday park. And... yeah, I mean... it's not the most sustainable job in the world. But what I will say... I run activities. And... you do it for the kids, you know, like that's the thing that makes the job satisfying. When you're running a session and the kids, like the families, are having a really great time, like it feels really good. And so that's the one nice thing about my job. Yeah. And also, like, I mean, this is part of what makes the job unsustainable. I'm like very part-time, we'll phrase it that way. So it's given me a lot of time to work on music, but also all the social media stuff, which I found a way to make social media fun, but also, like, especially like at the moment where things are stagnating, it's just like, ugh, you just feel like you're spending so much of your time doing marketing, and I'm starting to realise I'm not that great at marketing. But then if the alternative is just constantly being at work, you know, at least I feel like I'm doing something with my life at the moment. Few people have asked where it all started. I am self-taught. I know a few people ask me that. I am self-taught. I picked up a guitar late. I was like 16, 17. It's a very millennial thing, but I did get into Guitar Hero. Again, I was a bit late getting into Guitar Hero. The one I had that I played all the time was Warriors of Rock, which ended up being the last one. But which also got me into Alter Bridge, so it just randomly popped in my head. But I love the band Alter Bridge, and I got into them through guitar. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have those stories, like they got into Dragon Force or whatever band because of Guitar Hero. But no, Guitar Hero definitely put those delusions of fancy in my head. And I won't lie, like reading some of the Rockstar biopics, reading some of the Rockstar biographies, watching some of the biopics and stuff. Groupies and the stages and all the big, like, all the behind the scenes stuff, like, it was kind of fun. Yeah, there's something quite appealing about that. I love the 2010 film Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Here's a random one for you. I rewatched it actually not too long ago. When I was a teenager, I really liked this film that came out in 2009 called Band Slam, and like rewatching it now, like as an adult, I did fancy the pants off of Vanessa Hudgens, I won't lie. Especially that particular role of Sam with the Silent Five. This is probably oversharing now, but no, like, yeah, a part of me makes me think, was that something that contributed? But I would ultimately put it down to Guitar Hero. I had Beatles Rock Band, which was instrumental. I mean, my dad likes the Beatles, but that really got me into the Beatles. And then watching Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. And I think those things all together just put that delusion in my head, like, I want to be a rock star. And then when I started, like, playing guitar, I just found writing songs really cathartic. Like, I think I got through a lot of pain, if I'm being really frank with you. A lot of like loneliness and just bad days by just venting on my guitar. And then obviously I was like, talking about how I got started, I might make a follow-up video to this. We'll see how this video does. We'll see what the reaction's like among my fan base. I'd been in a few local bands. The main one is one called The Alamo. That was really a big inspiration for me and helped me become like the man that I am today. But I've been in various bands, and I think that's the other thing as well. So having all those like formative experiences, playing guitar, loving writing songs, and then being in bands, and not to get too deep or too melancholy or anything, but there's always this perception, actually like the Beatles, right, of like the four lads coming together and having that band with your best friends and kind of going out and conquering the world. I haven't had that yet. And unfortunately, the experiences I've had have made me very wary about putting a band together. But hopefully, you know, something will work out. And I'm going to finish things up with, I asked a friend of mine, I said, look, I'm making this video, what's something you would like to ask me? And slightly flippantly, he went, Vince, why indie rock and not metal? So we covered that I like Black Sabbath and Alter Bridge and Evanescence. I guess the first thing to cover is, the same day I saw Snow Patrol, Metallica were playing at the London Stadium. And as I got my train home, you saw all the metalheads, right, with the band t-shirts and the leather jackets and the long hair and everything. And, you know, like, my dad is into, like, Motorhead and Iron Maiden, like Led Zeppelin, stuff like that. And he still wears band t-shirts and a leather jacket, and he's still got all his hair, which I'm jealous of. No, but on a serious note, like, I don't know, man. Like, I do like some heavy music, but I think it's also fair to say that I'm probably more of a rock fan than a metal fan. And it's just like, I think, truthfully, like, especially doing my own thing, what I'm doing now is just much more authentic to who I am. And also, there's a kind of technical reason, which is just the indie stuff suits my voice a lot better. And sometimes, you know, you have to live in the real world, right, and not your fantasy world. I would love to be in this big, like, you know, butt rock or arena rock, like Bon Jovi, Shine Down kind of thing with the huge choruses and the soaring vocals, but I can't sing like John Bon Jovi. I can't sing like Brent Smith, right? So it's this real puzzle, actually. Like, it's this real finding that threading that needle of, I love big, obnoxious rock songs with the guitars and the drums and the vocals that are just like, oh, but like, how can I do that? How can I, yeah, and I think it's that kind of line of making indie adjacent music that has those flourishes of the rock moments or the heavy moments. And like I said, I think I'm getting to a place now where I'm achieving that, and I think I really am. I think with every release I'm finding my sound. I wish I could say that everything is fully formed, but I'm looking at the numbers and just kind of where I am, and it's just that thing where you have to take your ego out of the equation and say, you know what, Vince, talking to myself, I know you've done this for a long time, but you're still kind of at the beginning of your journey, and there's a lot you still need to achieve, and kind of still a lot you can do. And throw in the cheeky plug in there, we're still very much in the history book era, and I want to carry on promoting history book. I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of those songs. But what I've got cooking and what's coming up, you know, I'm in the studio at the moment. Hopefully the first song will be out before the end of... I'd love it if the first couple, like the big singles, came out before the end of the year. Definitely at least one before the end of the year. I'm really happy with this music, and I think it's that, again, there's a lot of eclectic stuff that I'm trying to put into one blender, and I think, you know, there's been individual songs like Writing on the Wall and Spirit of London that have very successfully brought those worlds together, and hopefully now we're at that place. And so I'm going to end the video with that sort of cheeky plug of saying, hey guys, you should stick around and follow my journey and be a part of this wonderful community that I'm building. And hopefully over time, you'll see something really special start to develop. Thank you so much to everyone who sent me in questions. I hope these answers have been good for you, and yeah. You might see a follow-up next week about more to do with how I got into music and my history and stuff like that. I think that would be really fun to talk about, actually. But until then, I very much hope to see you in another video.